the reason we do use it is just to make sure everything's in sync. Now I'm going to show you with this track here. So I've just dragged a song that I would DJ with in Ableton, and I'm going to show you from scratch. Usually Ableton tries to have a go at warping the track for you, and it'll be all over the place. Sometimes you get lucky. With each new release of Ableton, it's improving and it's getting better, but still most of the time it's slightly off, and it'll start going out of time if you just rely on it automatically. So we always want to manually do it. So the first thing we need to do is come to the very first beat. So if we hover over just above where we've got our beat timings, you'll see that there's a little hand that turns into a magnifying glass. We just click and drag down to zoom in. If you're on the beat grid, you'll see it's a speaker, and when you click it'll just start playing, so you need to make sure that you're above it. So zoom in, find the very first beat, or the very first area where we see it actually starts. So this is the kick drum. It's because we're zoomed in so far that we can actually see where it starts and where it really kicks in. Go to the very first section of it and just double click in this little grey area here. That'll add a warp marker. Then we right click on that warp marker, and if we see it warp from here straight, that'll get rid of all the other warp markers that are there. Now what you should always do is go on Beatport or go on the internet and find out what the BPM of the song is. And if we click on this first warp marker and just type in the BPM there, it'll automatically move the song along, and usually it puts most of the beat grids a bit more accurately, so it's a bit easier. So always make sure you do that. Go on to the internet, find the BPM and type it in there, and that gives you a good grounding from where to work. The other thing that we need to do is move this start. So when we hit play on the track, where it's going to start from, we want to make sure that's right at the start on this first beat marker. Now, people get very anal when they do this, and it can take an awful long time. So I've seen people start going through and doing it on every beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got one bar of music. Now, if you think we've got an awful lot of bars of music in here, and it's going to take you an awful long time, and it's easy to forget how far we've actually zoomed in on Ableton. So as a rule of thumb, I would always say if we go every 8 bars and just zoom in, and we can see that the starting point is just past the bar. So if we double click, add a marker in, and then just drag that so it's exactly in line. And that's what we have to do. We have to go through and just make sure that each beat is directly in line with this. A quick way of making sure is if we extend this loop brace and just stick it at 8 bars, and then we can move that along, and then we know we've just got to pull that kick drum just so it's exactly in line with this. So I'm just going to click that and just drag it over. Zoom back out, go on, zoom in, and just drag that in line. Now, another useful aspect of this is if we stick the metronome on, and we have the metronome on while we go through, you can actually watch where the beats are hitting. Dun, dun, dun. And you should be able to zoom in and see if it's in line or not. It does go quite quick, but that's a good indicator of actually how far we're zoomed in. So, you know, if we're slightly over, stop that. You know, the difference between having a beat marker here and a beat marker there is so minute that you'd never really hear it. Okay, I mean, even that's quite far zoomed in. So don't worry about, you know, having it from here to there. Once you get more used to warping tracks, you'll get a lot quicker with this, and it becomes a lot easier. Then you can kind of start worrying about being accurate. But if you're just learning this, you know, don't worry so much about it just yet. It's more important to kind of get a couple of tracks done and start playing with it and experimenting, rather than, you know, ensuring that every single beat is exactly the same. So I'm going to do it again. I'll just drag that one in. This one looks alright. As we get to breakdowns and things in song, it can become a bit harder to see where exactly we need to drag it into position. So if it does become a bit too complicated, just jump past that area and go to the next bit where the kick drum actually comes in, and it's a lot clearer and easier to see. So once you've done that, go through, do the whole song and get a few of them going, then you can actually start mixing. So if I duplicate this one, hit play on there, and then when I start this one, they'll both be playing in perfect timing. And you can even see just by looking at the level, boom, 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 they're both playing at the same. So that's how we warp tracks in Ableton. Try not to get stressed with this. You know, it is one of the hardest things to learn, especially for DJing or performing in Ableton. Give it time and practice with a lot of them. Some tracks are really hard to kind of identify where the beats are. So try to stick with simple or dance music for now, where the kick drums are quite clear and the structure's fairly simple, and get used to doing it before you move on to kind of harder genres to identify. But use that metronome as well and listen to it, and if the song doesn't match up, you know that there's a mistake.